It's now more than 15 years since 17-year-old Raonaid Murray was brutally murdered near her home in Glenageary in South County Dublin. Despite one of the highest profile investigations ever carried out, all these years later her killer still hasn't been caught. Something the trial of Graham Dwyer heard he had said in a text to his victim Elaine O'Hara. Well, Barry Cummins now reports on the unsolved murder of Raonaid Murray and how the investigation continues to this day.
17-year-old Raonaid Murray left Dunleary to go to her home in nearby Glenageary. She never arrived as she was attacked and stabbed a number of times.
The attack was a particularly vicious one and that the assailant would certainly have had blood on his clothes.
Gardaí say they are still hopeful of securing a conviction.
It's a year since 17-year-old Raonaid Murray's brutal murder.
Over the past 10 years, Gardaí have arrested a total of 14 people in connection with her killing. Her murder remains unsolved.
Someone knows who killed Raonaid. Don't shield a murderer.
It's the largest murder investigation of its kind in the history of the state. 9,000 people interviewed, 3,000 witness statements taken, the subject of a massive cold case review. But still, the murder of 17-year-old Raonaid Murray, stabbed to death a 20-minute walk from Dunleary, remains unsolved.
Hey, Orla. Hey, Rob. Hey, Gav. How are you?
At Dunleary Garda Station this week, officers continue to examine this high-profile case.
It's now over 15 years since Raonaid's death. Our investigation team here at Dunleary have engaged the assistance of the Serious Crime Review team, who've provided us with a number of lines of inquiry. And as part of our ongoing investigation into this murder, we are pursuing those lines of inquiry on a daily basis.
Okay.
Raonaid Murray was the youngest of 3 children born to Deirdre and Jim Murray. This is Raonaid on the left, with her sister Sarah and brother Daniel. She lived with her family at Silchester Park in Glenageary. Raonaid wanted to be a writer. She was planning to repeat her leaving cert to get the points to study a course at UCD. She had a part-time job in Dunleary. She was murdered in a frenzied knife attack, for which there is still no motive. In one of the many texts that now convicted murderer Graham Dwyer sent to his victim Elaine O'Hara, he said whoever had killed Raonaid Murray had got away with it, so why couldn't he? Well, Graham Dwyer has now been caught and convicted for the murder he committed, but whoever killed Raonaid Murray has never been convicted. He or she has, so far, got away with it.
It's definitely the saddest murder that I investigated in my time.
One of the original Gardaí to investigate the murder revisited the scene with me. So Martin, Raonaid came this direction and she was heading for home.
That's right. Now the initial contact between the attacker and Raonaid would appear to have taken place just right behind us there at the gable end of that house, because witnesses were able to tell us in the immediate aftermath that a lady's voice and a man's voice were heard, and the lady, we are assuming was Raonaid, said to the man to get away from her, or words to that effect. But just around that area there would appear to be where the attack on Raonaid took place. There was a trail of blood where Raonaid obviously was struggled all the way up to that opening. She was found lying on the footpath there by her sister and her 2 friends.
Even after suffering these wounds,
yes,
she fought to get away, in a sense. She fought to get up there.
Oh, she did indeed, and I'd say she didn't realise that she was so badly injured.
So Raonaid is struggling on towards her house up
Correct.
here.
Yeah.
This is the way she has come in.
Yes.
And the killer quite possibly goes out that way.
It would be the natural thing to do would be to go back that way from the direction she was walking, and sadly the knife was never found.
Yeah.
It's amazing that no proper intelligence feedback came after that attack on Raonaid, and there was no other attack similar to that around the area. So sadly we didn't get any good lead, but you know, we'd all hope and pray that someday the attacker will be found.
These images of Raonaid, seen here on the right, were taken 3 hours before her death. She was sighted on CCTV with a friend as they left Dunleary shopping centre, where Raonaid worked at a clothes shop. Raonaid said goodbye to her friend and met another friend and crossed over the road to Scott's pub, where she spent the next 2 hours. It was a normal, busy Friday night in Dunleary. Raonaid Murray left Scott's pub in Dunleary at around 11:20 that Friday night and headed home towards her house. It's about a 15-minute walk away. She told a friend she was going home to get changed, to come back to Dunleary and go to a nightclub. But Raonaid never got the chance to come back. At around midnight, she was attacked and stabbed in the laneway near her home. To this day, Gardaí do not know which route Raonaid took home. There were a number of ways to get from George's Street to Lower Glenageary Road and on towards Silchester. One possible lead, a girl matching Raonaid's description, was seen speaking with an unidentified man at the top of Corrig Avenue at around midnight. This is just one of the many leads which Gardaí followed at the time and which they are still pursuing this week. There are many persons of interest still unidentified, including a man who danced with Raonaid at Paparazzi's nightclub in July 1999 and spoke with her later at the local Abra Kababra. Other leads include a man seen running from Silchester Road after midnight on the night Raonaid was murdered, and a woman seen in the area at around that time. There is no prime suspect, but there are in fact a number of so-called persons of interest. A recent review by the Garda Cold Case Unit led to more than 20 people being nominated as still being viable suspects. Over 1,000 recommendations are now being followed by Gardaí here at Dunleary Garda Station. Things like new interviews, re-interviews, fresh searches, forensic retesting. The investigation file here is massive. You cannot help but wonder if the identity of the killer is somewhere within all that paperwork. Raonaid Murray died within minutes of being stabbed. She suffered a fatal wound in her left armpit. She also suffered knife wounds to her chest, her abdomen, and her right arm. This is where Raonaid Murray died. She had been attacked in the laneway and had stumbled about 50 yards or so to here in a great show of strength. But she had suffered multiple knife wounds and she collapsed and died on the footpath. In a previous interview marking the launch of a family website dedicated to Raonaid, her parents Jim and Deirdre told me about their youngest child.
From the time I knew I was expecting Raonaid, she was a joy for me.
Raonaid was, she was really a beautiful, beautiful child.
There are still so many questions unanswered. Who desecrated a cross at Raonaid's grave in Shangana Cemetery some months after the murder? And is it linked to the killing? And whoever did murder Raonaid would have had a considerable amount of blood on their clothing. It's very likely that somewhere there is a family member or friend of the killer hiding a terrible secret.
There are still two critical aspects of this case which the investigation team need to resolve. The first one is, why was Raonaid Murray, a 17-year-old girl, killed in such a violent fashion, so close to the safety of her family home? And who carried out this killing? Somebody knows the answers to these questions. It's time for that person or persons to make a call. It's never too late. I'm asking that person to make that call now. Your silence is compounding the suffering of the Murray family. Please call us at Dunleary Garda Station on 01 666 5000 or call us on the Garda Confidential line on 1800 666 111.
It's now more than 15 years since 17-year-old Raonaid Murray was brutally murdered near her home in Glenagary in South County Dublin. Despite one of the highest profile investigations ever carried out, all these years later her killer still hasn't been caught. Something the trial of Graham Dwyer heard he had said in a text to his victim Elaine O'Hara. Well, Barry Cummins now reports on the unsolved murder of Raonaid Murray and how the investigation continues to this day.
17-year-old Raonaid Murray left Dunleary to go to her home in nearby Glenagary. She never arrived as she was attacked and stabbed a number
was a
of
particularly vicious one, and that the assailant would certainly have had blood
murder,
on his
Gardaí
clothes.
say they are still hopeful of securing a
It's a
conviction.
year since 17-year-old Raonaid Murray's brutal murder.
Over the past 10 years, Gardaí have arrested a total of 14 people in connection with her killing. Her murder remains unsolved.
Someone knows who